Welcome to the New Process Podcast. Learn all the tools, methods, and best practices combined with people, emotions, and a human-centric mindset to rethink your process and push it to the next level. And here is your host, Mirko Kloppenberg.
Yeah, welcome to episode 64 of the New Process Podcast. Today we'll explore your path to a process-driven organization. For the second time, this episode is available not only in English but also in German. So, if you prefer listening in German, just switch to the German version of this episode. This episode is special, not just because of the topic or the bilingual format or because of the little gift I'll share with you at the end of this episode. No, it is special because of the location. I'm recording this episode at the Baltic Sea, more specifically at Zehlendorfer Strand, just a few steps away from the beach. Yeah, Zehlendorfer Strand is one of the places I keep coming back to with my family to enjoy the beach, but also on my own to recharge in this beautiful nature. So right now I'm here for a solo strategy offsite. Yeah, just me taking the time to reflect on the past years and to think into the future and to share with you what I've learned about building a truly process-driven organization. So, in this episode, you'll learn why processes only work when they have a clear and inspiring purpose, how a shared process language creates clarity and alignment, which roles are essential to truly bring processes to life, why simple and intuitive models are key to genuine process engagement, and how the BPM Roadmap helps you to build a process-driven organization step by step. And, as I mentioned, there is a small gift waiting for you at the end of this episode, something that can really make a difference. So, enjoy this episode. It's definitely worth your time.
And now, let's start to rethink processes.
Yeah, to kick this episode, we're going to start with a small flashback. Yeah. For more than 3 years, I've left the Lufthansa Group and started my own mission to rethink processes. Yeah, to truly rethink processes and to get people excited about processes and to create process-driven organization. Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. And what I'm seeing there quite often is that there are three major failures which are made. Yeah. The first one is that BPM is thought as a project, yeah, as something which is a one-time effort and then it's done and it's gone, yeah, done and dusted. But that's wrong, yeah. If you're going truly into the direction of a process-driven organization, this journey will never end. Yeah, processes will always be there. That's a culture. That's something that will stay for the future. So you cannot think that BPM is a project. That's the first failure here. Then what I also see is often that there is no purpose defined. Yeah, why are we doing this? Why are we managing our processes? Why are we building a process-driven organization? So if you don't have this purpose and the people don't understand why you are doing this, why they are doing this, then there will be no excitement, yeah? And no one is really motivated to truly develop this process-driven organization. And the third issue is companies just buy a license for a modeling tool, start modeling, and have no idea what to do beyond modeling. Yeah, then they have tons of process models lying in the library, but no one really knows what to do with this afterwards. So that's something I observed quite often during the last few months, and that's so sad. Yeah, because you are missing all the potential of business process management to really manage and improve your processes if you have no idea, no plan what's beyond process modeling. And then the question often is, how does it really look like, if we are talking about truly process-driven organization? And I can tell you this from my own experience, It all starts with purpose, In a truly process-driven organization, the people know why you are doing this, why they are working in processes, why they are working on processes, because of an emotional process purpose, which was defined in the beginning and is continuously improved, enhanced. And this purpose really provides direction for process design, for process improvement, for process execution. So that's something which is so inspiring. And that's what you definitely see in a process-driven organization, that there is a purpose defined. Then the second aspect, which you will see in a process-driven organization, is that the people are speaking a common process language. There is a notation that all the people in the organization intuitively understand. It can be used to introduce, to train new employees, to really look into the details of a process, to discuss situations which are not that common, to discuss about processes with your colleagues. That's so important. So everyone is speaking this common, this joint process language, simple notation, not complex BPMN 2.0 nobody understands. You really need this simple notation to speak this common language. And in a process-driven organization, you will see processes, They are visible. And not only the processes are visible, but the people who are accountable and responsible, who are managing these processes, are visible. They are nominated. There are meetings where they can talk about processes. That's super cool if you have this visibility. Up to there are not only just people taking over hobby roles. No, there are full-time process architects, for example. So in a truly process-driven organization, there is capacity assigned to this topic. It starts with, someone is taking over the process architect role, but it's so super cool if you see popping up job postings for process architects. And if you remember the episode with Lars Müller from Lufthansa Technik, one of my favorite process architects, he told us that they today have organizational units with numbers of process architects working full-time on managing and improving processes. So that's what you can see in a truly process-driven organization, that there are people working full-time on processes, and they are trained to do this. So there are trainings available, there are training journeys to become a super effective process architect. You will need methods and tools to manage and improve your processes, and this often takes a bit more time to get used to these methods, to get introduced, and then apply them, transfer all the knowledge to the processes. So that's what you can see in a process-driven organization. That there is capacity available and that there are these competencies available. And what you can also see is that there is top management that really understands the impact, the benefit of processes, that they can use processes to transfer a strategy into reality based on processes. If you have top management with real process experience, because years ago they worked in process, they worked on processes themselves, then they really know the benefit of having processes, and they know how this can be used as a tool to transform an organization, to bring a process or to bring a business strategy into reality by putting that into a process strategy, into process design, implementing that and training the people. That's the way to transform an organization. And if top management has understood this, and that's what you can see in a process-driven organization, that's so cool. And I saw that, That's so exciting, and you can implement activities to facilitate that. Yeah, if your top management does not really know the impact, the benefit of processes, you can set up formats to let them experience the benefit on their own. That's super cool. But if you're not yet there, how can you get there? How does this journey to a process-driven organization look like? And therefore, I've put all my experience from 20 years of process management into a BPM roadmap. We already talked about that in the State of New Process episode, but I would like to go in more detail here in this episode. So this roadmap on the way to process-driven organization consists of 3 stages. Yeah, stage 1 is that you position BPM for impact. That's where you take a close look at the purpose and the strategy of the organization, and you are going to develop how BPM will contribute to this purpose, to this strategy. And you're going to define your process purpose as well as your BPM strategy here. And based on this information, you can then evaluate and quantify the benefit of processes. And I guess your management will ask for an estimation of this benefit or a calculation. And that's what you can do based on the purpose and the strategy, develop this, what BPM will really contribute to the organization. And if you have this as a strategy, then you can use this to develop your BPM framework, the framework that you need to manage and operate processes. And as soon as you have this framework, then you can move to stage 2. That's where we're going to implement the BPM framework. That's where we are going to build up the process architecture, to map the processes, to get the people excited about processes, and also to identify process owners, process architects, and so on. And if you have this implementation done, you can move over to stage 3. That's where you're going to manage and improve your processes. Typically, process owners, architects will need a bit of guidance, training, coaching in this phase, but that's where you can apply all these cool methods like process mining, automation. You can put AI into the processes. Unfortunately, that's often something the organization would like to achieve right away. We're now going to automate our process, and but the basics are missing. There is no role concept established. There's no process of process management. There is no culture available. That's so important, because in parallel, while you're working on these 3 stages, you are continuously building a process culture. For example, in the beginning, and whenever you are doing the next step, you have to create transparency about what you are doing. The people have to know what is going on. You have to use, internal media, put it into the internet with articles. Or, I love creating a process podcast to share insights of what is going on in your BPM initiative, in the implementation project, and so on. So create transparency and involve the people. Invite them to participate. That's something what is so important to create a process culture here. And then create experiences that really get the people excited about processes. So that's an ongoing activity, especially from a new process perspective. That's so important to really get the people on board here. So, as I said, the basis after creating process purpose and the BPM strategy is the BPM framework. You will need this framework to get to a process-driven organization. But often the question is, Mirko, what the hell is a BPM framework? And I would describe it, as the name already says, as a frame that you need to put in all your business processes. You will need this framework to create the prerequisites to manage and improve your processes. For example, core, the heart of this is the process of process management, a process that describes how you are managing and improving your processes. You cannot just ask the people out there, go and manage your processes without doing this for your own. Yeah? You need a process that describes how you're doing this. And this also includes roles, like the process owner role. This definitely has to be defined clearly. Yeah. That's also part of the framework. And you have to tell these roles like process owner, process architect, how to communicate, how to steer process improvement, process execution, and so on. And finally, I also see the notation you're using as part of the BPM framework, the architecture, as well as how you're modeling the processes on a detailed level. If you have these things defined, then you can start implement this framework process by process. And I'm using the so-called new process BPM framework as the result out of more than 20 years of process management experience as the framework to get to a process-driven organization. And my new process BPM framework consists of 4 modules. Yeah. Module 1 is, as you can imagine, the new process lifecycle. That's my process of process management that I'm using here. Then module 2 is the role concept, the BPM role concept that I'm using, which clearly defines process management roles like process owner, process architect, process manager, and so on. The third module is about communication and steering. Yeah? You need a blueprint, a model to really steer your processes. You have to define how the roles are communicating, how the meetings are established to talk about processes, to drive process improvement, and so on. And the fourth module is the notation. As I already said, how should the architecture of your processes look like? And how are you going to map the processes in detail, hopefully in a notation that everyone understands? So these are the 4 modules of the new process BPM framework. And I'd like to take the time to walk you through these 4 modules in more detail in this episode. So the core, really the heart of the new process BPM framework is the process of process management. And my new process lifecycle, that's it's quite unique. It's based on a typical plan, do, check, act cycle, a process life cycle you know from theory out there. But what is really unique about the process is one thing in the beginning already, and that's that we're going to start the life cycle on a specific process level with defining the process purpose of the process. Yeah, why do we have this process? Hopefully, it contributes to an organizational purpose on an emotional level, and you will end up with a process purpose statement, a sentence that explains why we have this specific process here, which really get the people excited about why we have this process. So that's the first phase. Sounds a bit spooky, but this is really a super weapon if you apply that to get people excited and to create direction for your journey to a process-driven organization. Then and that applies not only to the process of process management. Yeah, you can apply this to any process out there. That's so important. So, and then in the second phase, we're going to develop the process strategy. Yeah, that's where you're going to check where you are right now. You're going to check all the implications of the business strategy, for example, and what else is going on here. And you are going to develop a target picture of where you want to go to with your process. And finally, you will develop measures on how to get there. That's your process strategy. And that's so important to have a process strategy to provide guidance here on a more specific level. So if we have this process strategy, we can continue with developing a process design that helps to bring this strategy to life, to fulfill this strategy, bring that into reality. Remember the top management understanding how to use processes as a tool to bring a strategy into life. That's how this is going. Take your business strategy, develop a process strategy, and then develop the process design. That's the creative part where you bring the people together to map with sticky notes on the wall, where you're going to build prototypes, where you're going to pilot the process, to try it out, to test it in a secured environment, for sure. And at the end, the process owner says, that's the design I would like to implement. I'd like to go forward with. And I'm really differentiating between design and modeling, because now we're going to formalize this creative process design and bring that into the notation that everyone in the organization really understands. That's where you're going to model the process, put it into the tool, put it into the notation. By the way, you can already use existing process designs, process models in the design phase, or you could even map processes in the tool in the design phase. That's super good if you're going to do that. But latest in stage 4, actually, to model processes, you have to put that into this notation, into this language everyone understands. So if we have that in the notation, at the end, the process owner can approve it, say, as the one who's accountable for process design, that's the way we would like to go into the future, how the process should look like. You can check the process for conformity with regards to legal normative requirements, for example, here, and then we can go into implementation. And implementation is not just like, okay, I'm publishing the process in the tool and this sends out a notification and that's it. No. What you have to do in implementation, that's the real work here, is to create the prerequisites to execute the process with regards to technical, organizational, and personal requirements. A minimum is you have to train the people, to enable the people to execute this newly designed process. You have to tell them how the new process looks like and make sure that they really know how to execute this process. But in addition to that, it's often necessary to implement tools and equipment to create the infrastructure, implement new software, build a hangar, a workshop, or even create organizational structures like founding a company, setting up the organization, hiring employees. So activities may vary and may be quite complex, but that's what you have to do to implement the process. And if this is done, then you can publish the process and say, now we're going to start working according to the new process design. And then you go into the last phase of the outer life cycle here. By the way, I'll tell you at the end how to get to the pictures here, to more details. Take a look into the show notes. So in the final phase of this outer process life cycle is then that we're going to steer process execution, hopefully based on indicators which have been designed in or defined in design or strategy phase. That's where you make sure that the process runs smoothly on a global level and also within the instances, for example, at the different locations here. And then you start over again and review the purpose, the strategy, and design the process and so on. So that's the outer life cycle of the new process life cycle. And then there's another thing that's quite unique here on this level. That's the phase to improve process execution. That's where Lean, Kaizen, Six Sigma comes into the game. That's where you're going to improve the execution of a given process design at, for example, a specific location. That's where the line manager takes a look at how can we optimize the process execution here by, for example, changing material flow, changing the workshop layout, restructuring how the people are sitting together and so on. Everything that can be done to improve process execution without contradicting the process design here. And if you have these cool ideas, then you have to make sure that you transfer these ideas from the local sites to the global process design, to scale innovations here to bring these ideas back into the outer, bigger process management lifecycle. That's how the new process lifecycle looks like. And then you have to bring this to life. Yeah. And that's super simple. Like in all the other business processes, we need BPM roles. We need the roles to bring the process to life. Roles like the process owner, like the process architect, and so on. You not just assign these roles. You also thought about implementation here for your process. So you hopefully have trainings and formats that can be used to train the people to execute their roles, to coach them, for example. So that's so important as in the second module of the new process BPM framework, to have this BPM role concept and to clearly define the business process management roles and to assign the activities to specific roles and to make sure. And that's something I often see that people mix up accountability and responsibility. For example, for the process owner. A process owner, in the role of the process owner, is only accountable for the process design. A process owner is never accountable for the execution of the process. That's the accountability of the line manager. The role leading the employees. It can be that one person carries out both roles. Can be that I am the process owner as well as the line manager of the people. But in the role of the process owner, I'm never accountable for process execution. So now we have a process, we have the BPM roles, and then we have to make sure that we are really driving process improvement, process operations. And that's something we can do by implementing formats and platforms like meetings that take place on a regular basis. Make sure that you have on an operational level meetings established where the people can talk about processes, can talk about how to improve processes, or on a strategic level to have a platform where the process owners can talk about their processes and get the opinions of the top management of the organizations to finally take a decision, to let the process owner, because only the process owner is accountable for process design, take a decision on how the process should be improved, for example. And this helps, if you're going to establish meetings like I just described, to create visibility for processes, and especially visibility for the people who are working on the processes. Now, if you have these roles assigned, then a process architect becomes visible because he or she can present the current status of a process in one of these platforms, for example. And you can use these platforms to align the processes with strategy, and to really drive process improvement. If you as top management set up a platform to talk about your processes once a quarter, this will really drive process improvement because the people will be working toward this meeting. Again, next month there's the meeting where I have the chance to talk about what is going on in my process and I want to achieve progress. And when I go to that meeting, I would like to show that we achieved something new throughout the last quarter. And this will really help to speed up process improvement, to drive processes forward. And if you're just doing this and offering from a management perspective, meeting like that once a year, you can imagine this will really slow down the process improvements. And for example, on an operational level, as a process owner, you can also offer these platforms to talk about your process with your architect, the process manager. And if you're doing this once a month, for example, or even twice a month, this will really push the process ahead and speed up what is going on here. And by implementing these platforms, you can also involve the people. And they get into the work, they become visible, and they will take over responsibility for improving process. So that's why it's important to have these processes. And then finally, the fourth module is about modeling. And you can really make a difference with how you're modeling processes. Yeah, not just get a license, implement a tool, map process in BPM 2.0, full blown, and nobody will understand what is going on here. No, if you map your processes, you have to create clarity on the first glance. That's so important. Yeah, each and everyone in the organization must understand this language you're talking here. Yeah, you are mapping processes not just for the experts. Yeah, you're mapping for all the people out there. Could be the person at good acceptance, could be HR, could be the person distributing company mail. Yeah, all these people should simply take a look at the process model and understand. Okay, that's the process. That's my role. This is the activity. That's what I'm supposed to do, and then they can act. So that's so important to have a notation, a process modeling notation that everyone understands. And then if you bring the people together to map processes in a modeling session, they will start creating their joint picture of the process. They are going to create a joint understanding of the process. And they will take this picture and discuss the process with their colleagues, because that's their baby, and they will fight for it. They will fight for the implementation, for the proper execution, because it's theirs. Yeah. So that's how you can create or co-create processes, and then also make sure that the people take over responsibility for the process together and carry that into the organization. And if you are speaking this common language, as I already said, this will really help to create a process culture, to understand this language and to use this as a basis to talk about processes. That's the starting point where process culture is truly built. So let's quickly sum it up, how this all comes together. So as I said, it all starts with developing the purpose, which then gives direction, not only for all the business processes out there, but especially for the process of process management. Why are you doing BPM here? The purpose will give guidance, will give orientation and motivation to the people. Then you need this process of process management. That will provide structure to manage and improve processes in a professional way. And this also includes BPM roles like process owner and process architects. These roles are necessary to bring the process of process management to life. You have to make sure that these roles are not only assigned, but also the people are trained to really execute these roles. And then you have to provide something for the communication and the steering of the process. Provide platforms on the specific levels, for example, for a strategy review and so on, to really drive process improvement. That's how to get to a process-driven organization, by implementing platforms and formats here to steer process. And the basis is the modeling that you're using. As I said, this common language is so important to create a common understanding, and that's the basis for creating a process culture here. That's how it all comes together. So I think that's a lot for this episode, just by talking about it. If you are interested in to dive deeper into the topics, then here comes my little gift, as I promised in the beginning. I worked on this for the last few weeks to build a BPM Roadmap Mini Course. It's not so mini. It's nearly 45 minutes of video content to really deep dive into the BPM roadmap, to provide you all the necessary information. And in the last module of the mini course, there will be a workbook which you can use, and I'll guide you through that. to review where you are, to build your target picture, to find out what has to be done, and to clearly define measures for the first steps to get to a process-driven organization. So that's what you can get by working yourself through this BPM Roadmap Mini Course. To get the course, it's for free. To get the course, just go to newprocesslab.com/roadmap. For sure, I'll put the link into the show notes as well. So, thank you so much for taking the time. That's it here. See you in the recap.
Let's recap today's new process inspiration.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. Let's quickly recap what you can take away from it. We talked a lot about purpose. Purpose really gives process meaning and direction. And that applies not only to all the business process out there, especially it applies to the process of process management. Only when we are clear about why we do something, then true motivation and orientation can emerge. So it's all about purpose. Then we talked about the BPM framework that you need as a basis. And core, the heart of the BPM framework is the process of process management, which explains to people out there how to manage and improve processes. And it also includes the BPM roles like process owner, process architect, and so on. This will help to bring your process to life. So process only work when there is a solid BPM framework in place to support each and every business process. We also talked about that process work requires time, competence, and participation, involvement of the people. So it is not enough to just model a process, to get a license, implement a tool, map process in BPM 2.0. No, that's not enough. People need to be empowered to manage and improve their processes. There has to be specific capacity, training formats, and so on. And we also talked about that it's super important to have this shared language to make understanding easier. And when everyone speaks the same process language, real process culture begins to take shape. It begins to develop. And this all was somehow framed by the BPM roadmap, which shows your path to a process-driven organization. With a clear structure, you can establish BPM step by step across your organization. And if you are ready to go deeper, as I said already, I have this gift here for you, and that's my BPM Roadmap Mini Course. That's your free starting point on your journey towards a process-driven organization. It contains 45 minutes of videos that build on this episode and that will help you to take your first concrete steps. So you'll find the course at newprocesslab.com/roadmap or simply click the link in the show notes. I'd love to have you join, and if you know someone else who was ready to rethink processes, feel free to share the course with these process enthusiasts as well. So, see you in the next episode, and good luck on your path to a truly process-driven organization. For now, thanks again for listening. Have a fantastic day, and see you next time. Bye-bye und auf Wiedersehen.
You've been listening to the New Process Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode for more tools, methods, and best practices to rethink your process and push it to the next level. Thank you for listening.
Before you leave, as I already mentioned in this episode, but since it's something I truly care about, I'd like to invite you once again to join my free BPM Roadmap Mini Course. It builds on what you've heard in this episode, and it helps you to take next concrete steps towards a process-driven organization with my personal support. So To get there, just head over to newprocesslab.com/roadmap to get started. And thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.